LeighTDickey.com.
What's going on, everybody? Leigh Dickey here. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Today, I want to tell you about my greatest Christmas gift ever. Yes, you heard me right. My greatest Christmas gift ever. The greatest Christmas gift that I have ever received. But before we get into that, I want to tell you where you can find me, yours truly, Leigh Dickey, and the Beats and Speaks podcast. Of course, the Beats and Speaks podcast releases brand new episodes every single Friday at midnight Eastern Time on my official website, LeighTDickey.com, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. Find us on YouTube as well under Leigh Dickey TV. Please do rate and leave reviews on your favorite podcast app and player of choice. iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., etc. You can also leave reviews on my official Facebook page, which is facebook.com/LeighTDickey, as well as the official Beats and Speaks podcast landing page on my official website, LeighTDickey.com, and I will feature them right here on the Beats and Speaks podcast, as well as front and center on my official website, LeighTDickey.com. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast, please do email me at LeighTDickey, that's LeighTDickey @gmail.com, and you and I can set something up and go from there so you can find yourself and hear yourself on a future episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Everyone's got a story. I just want to help them tell it. So get in touch with me and we can get something sorted and get something started so you and I can have a conversation right here on the Beats and Speaks podcast. Now that all that housekeeping is out of the way, let's get into the story of my greatest Christmas gift ever. Since we're right up against Christmas, I am recording this at about 2 o'clock in the morning on December 23rd, so I will get this out either on the 24th or the 25th, so we're right up against Christmas. So let's get right into it. The story of my greatest Christmas gift ever, right here on the Beats and Speaks podcast. Alright, so yes, the story of my greatest Christmas gift ever. Now, if you guys are watching this on YouTube at Leigh Dickey TV, or you're on the homepage or the Beats and Speaks podcast landing page within my official website, LeighTDickey.com, and you scroll down to the bottom, you see the latest episode, which this is, you will see a picture of me holding my greatest Christmas gift ever. Thus far, to date, it is a microphone, because that picture is actually within the thumbnail. So you are seeing this if you're watching this on YouTube under Leigh Dickey TV, or you're browsing my official website, LeighTDickey.com, because that image is everywhere. This microphone I got from my aunt and my uncle. It was my grandfather's. It is a vintage bullet microphone. I think it's a vintage radio bullet microphone from about the 1930s or 1940s. It was my grandfather's. Now, I've mentioned this several times on this podcast and in interviews that I've done. I have worked in radio, television, entertainment, and all things media for the majority of my adult life. So to be a guy that works in media, to be a guy that's a media professional, and to have something like this vintage bullet microphone is super cool. Now, granted, the image that you see that's basically the build of the thumbnail for this episode, that image of me holding the microphone is the only picture of it that I have, and that picture is from about, well, I got the microphone in 2015, for Christmas 2015, and to my Uncle Dave and Aunt Lisa and their family out there, thank you so much for sending this out to me. It is fantastic. I love having it, and granted, this is the only photo of it that I have, because I love having it. It's a fantastic showpiece. It's actually on my dresser within a plastic Meyer bag that it was shipped to me in. Well, granted, we don't have the box that it was shipped in because this was 4 years ago, but I still have the original bag that my aunt and uncle shipped it to me in, and it's sitting on my dresser within that same plastic bag that it was shipped to me in. So I don't know. I don't want to take it out and fumble with it too much because I'm afraid something's going to happen to it. I don't want to damage it because it's such a vintage piece, right? And granted, this is the only photo of it that I have, but I am just so thankful to have it in my house and in my home. And I'm being a media guy and a media pro. It's so cool to just have it. It is a vintage bullet microphone, and it was my grandfather's. He's since passed away. Like he's been he's passed away several years ago now, but to have something of his that falls along the same lines of media in a way, with me being a media professional, it's super cool. Like I just love looking at it every chance that I get. I love just thinking back to the day that I got it. I was so surprised because not that my aunt let the cat out of the bag, if you will, but she said she had commented on something. I think it was either my Facebook wall or a photo that I had put up where she said something interesting coming in the mail, and she kind of dropped a hint. Didn't tell me what it was. She just said it was something interesting and something that she thought I might like coming in the mail. And I said, well, I'll keep an eye out for it. And when it came and we opened the box, now granted, there were some other things in there like, a tin of assorted nuts, various food items, plus I think little card games or what have you, because they do send that stuff out every year. And it's just a fun little box. But to have the microphone, I guess, as my centerpiece, because there were several gifts shipped in this box. Gifts for my mom, gifts for me, and various gifts that she and I could split, which was fantastic. So again, Uncle Dave, Aunt Lisa, you guys are the best. So to have this microphone as like the focal point for me and the centerpiece, it was super cool. It's super cool to have it. I am over the moon even all these years later, even though I'm afraid to even handle the microphone because it is so fragile. It is so vintage. And it was my grandfather's. Now, granted, I looked at it. The microphone is inoperable, right? Like there's some damage to the cable, but it's like a 70, nearly 80-year-old microphone, if not in that ballpark. I mean, there are parts of the cable that look like it was either chewed through or spliced or cut, but that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. I mean, it would have been cool if it had worked, but just to have it is super cool. And the fact that it was my grandfather's, it just makes it that much cooler to me. The fact that, like, I'm not sure how my grandfather came into owning the microphone. I'm not sure whether he had it when he was younger, when he was about my age, or even in his early 20s, or he got it as a child, or what. I don't know how he came across and how he came to own this vintage bullet microphone, but I'm super thankful that A, he kept it, B, my uncle and aunt got it, C, I got into media, D, they decided to send it out to me. So thank you again to my Uncle Dave and Aunt Lisa for thinking of me that year when I got it about 4 years ago, and for shipping it out here for Christmas. It was a fantastic surprise. I am still over the moon all these years later. Yes, I have the original bag that it was shipped in, and it sits in that bag to this day, on my dresser. I know exactly where it is. And the image of me holding the microphone, which is the image to this thumbnail for this episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast, is the only picture of it that I have, because I'm just so afraid that if I take it out of the bag, I'm going to damage it somehow, and I don't want to do that. Like I enjoy having the piece. I love the fact that I do have it, and I will cherish it for as long as I live from here on out. But I mean, in terms of handling it, I really don't want to do that. I don't want to get, the oil from my hands or any sort of scuff marks on it. Yes, it's a 70, 80-year-old piece of equipment, and no, like I said, it doesn't work, but it's a showpiece. It's a conversation starter. It's cool. I love having it, and I'm very thankful for my family for holding on to it. Love you, Grandpa, Uncle Dave, Aunt Lisa. Again, thank you. Love you guys. And for holding on to it and thinking of me and then shipping it out here back in 2015, the year that I got it for Christmas. That is the greatest gift that I could have gotten thus far. Now, I'm sure, not to get materialistic, but as someone that works in media, to have that as, the centerpiece in my house for someone that works in radio, television, entertainment, and all things media, it's super cool. Yes, it's a complete showpiece. It's an absolute conversation starter. It's just super cool to have, and you can't really go wrong with something like that. It was my grandfather's. My family held on to it. They took care of it. They shipped it out here. I have it now, and I will cherish it for as long as I live. And again, I have said this several times, but I am super thankful to my grandfather for holding on to it, my aunt and uncle for doing the same thing and holding on to it and taking such good care of it, and then shipping it out here. I'm over the moon just to have it. It's fantastic. I mean, again, if it was working and in order, I probably would have plugged it in. But even though it isn't, I just like having it. I love looking at stuff like that because I am an equipment and hardware sort of microphone, audio, video nut. That's the stuff that I love. I love, getting behind a board and a microphone and just talking. Clearly, I'm doing this show. I'm doing the Beats and Speaks podcast for you guys, and I have for nearly 60 episodes. I think this is episode 60 at this point. But it's just cool to have it. I love having it. I love looking at it. I love the fact that I now have the responsibility of taking care of it. I love the fact that I got into media, and it's just a really, really cool piece. Now, yes, like I've said several times, that photo that's the thumbnail in this episode is the only picture of me with the microphone because I'm afraid to actually take it out of the bag and handle it anymore because it is so vintage and so unique and it's fragile. I don't want to wreck it. I want to cherish it. I want to hold on to it for as long as I live from here on out. But I just wanted to tell you guys the story, how I got it, where it is now, how it is, the condition it's in. It's in the same condition it was when I got it. Now, granted, I go over to my dresser, the one that it's on, and I look at it from time to time, and I thank my lucky stars. I thank God that I have it, because it's just such a cool piece to have, right? Again, as somebody that works in radio, television, entertainment, and all things media, to have a piece like that has basically been passed down from my grandfather to my aunt and uncle having it and taking care of it. Now me, it's cool, and I love having it. So again, to my grandfather, love you. To my Uncle Dave and my Aunt Lisa and their families, thank you. Love you guys. Thank you for shipping out that microphone to me. Thank you for thinking of me. I will cherish it and take care of it for as long as I live. Now, granted, I don't know whether or not, whenever it's my time to go, maybe we'll put it in a museum. Maybe I'll have enough clout that they'll open up the Leigh-Dickey Museum and that can be the centerpiece. I'm not sure. Who knows? But I will cherish it for as long as I live from here on out. So thank you to my family. And thank you guys for listening to this story of my greatest Christmas gift ever. I love having this piece. And I hope you guys enjoyed listening to this episode. So again, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Find us on YouTube under Leigh-Dickey TV and your favorite podcast app and player of choice, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever podcasts are available. Please do rate and like us, 5 stars, reviews, all that sort of thing on your favorite podcast app and player of choice. And I will feature those reviews right here on the Beats and Speaks podcast as well as my official website, LeighTDickey.com. You can leave reviews on my official Facebook page, which is facebook.com/LeighTDickey. You can also leave reviews on the official Beats and Speaks podcast landing page within my official website, LeighTDickey.com. If you'd like to be a guest on a future episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast, please email me at LeighTDickey@gmail.com, and we can set something up so you and I can have a good old-fashioned conversation, and you can find yourself and hear yourself right here on a future episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Again, new episodes of the Beats and Speaks podcast go live every single Friday at midnight Eastern Time. But that wraps up another episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. That's it for me. I've been your host, Leigh Dickey. Of course, this has been the Beats and Speaks podcast, and that was the story of my greatest Christmas gift ever. We will see you all and talk to you all again right before the year is out on a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. All right, I'm Leigh Dickey. This has been the Beats and Speaks podcast, and I am signing off. Peace. Well, there it is. There you have it. There you go. And because we're right up against Christmas, ho, ho, ho. Hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. That was the story of my greatest Christmas gift ever. Of course, this wraps up another episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. I have been your host, Leigh Dickey. To find the Beats and Speaks podcast, please do go to my official website, LeighTDickey.com, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever podcasts are available. Please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. We're also on YouTube under Leigh Dickey TV. Of course, all the links will be available in the description. If you'd like to be a future guest on an episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast, please do email me at LeighTDickey@gmail.com, and we can set something up and go from there. So you and I can have a good old-fashioned conversation, and you can find yourself and hear yourself on a future episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. Thank you once again for tuning in to this episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast, the story of my greatest Christmas gift ever. Please do rate us 5 stars on your favorite podcast app and player of choice. Leave us reviews as well. You can leave reviews on my official Facebook page, which is facebook.com/LeighTDickey. And you can leave reviews as well on the official Beats and Speaks podcast landing page within my official website on LeighTDickey.com. Links are in the description. I will feature those reviews right here on the Beats and Speaks podcast, as well as my official website, LeighTDickey.com. Front and center, you know it, you know it, you know it. But I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks again for listening, and thank you for the year that was 2019 as we wrap it up. Of course, I've got more episodes coming in 2020, but before 2019 is out, you will get one more episode from me. Thank you once again for tuning in, listening, commenting, liking, subscribing, and sharing. You guys have been a blast. This show is a blast, and I would love to just keep on producing this show for you and hosting this show for you. I really do enjoy doing this show. So if you'd like to be a future guest on an episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast, again, please do email me at LeighTDickey@gmail.com, as well as please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Find us on YouTube under Leigh Dickey TV, as well as your favorite podcast app and a player of choice, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever podcasts are available. Please do again rate us 5 stars, leave us reviews, and we will see you all and talk to you all next Friday for a brand new episode of the Beats and Speaks podcast. I've been Leigh Dickey. This has been the Beats and Speaks podcast, and I am signing off. Peace. LeighTDickey.com